On her 12th birthday, something strange happened. As the moon rose over Mistveil, the silent bell ticked. It was a faint sound, tick, tock, barely louder than a whisper. But Luma heard it. And when she crept out of bed and tiptoed barefoot across the dewy grass, the tick grew louder. The door to the Clocktower, once sealed shut, stood open. Inside, the air shimmered with silver dust. And high above, the gears of time began to turn once more. A spiral staircase wound upward like a snail's shell. Luma climbed, and with each step, she felt lighter, dreamier, as though sleep itself was curling around her like a soft scarf. At the top, she met him, the Keeper of Moments. Cloaked in time-worn robes and carrying an hourglass that glowed from within. "Heard the call," he said. "Then it's your turn to journey through the realms of slumber. The dreams of the world are fading, and only you can gather the lost seconds and stitch them into sleep once more." Luma didn't understand, not yet. But something inside her, something deep and quiet, nodded. She took the Keeper's hand, and together, they stepped into the first dream door. The dream door shimmered like water touched by moonlight. Luma stepped through it, holding tightly to the Keeper's hand. The world around her rippled and then shifted. She found herself standing in a glowing garden. But this was no ordinary garden. The trees hummed softly, their branches blooming with tiny silver clocks instead of leaves. Flowers opened slowly and revealed not petals, but tiny glowing dreams, memories in the shape of butterflies, feathers, music notes, laughter. The air itself smelled like vanilla milk and warm bedtime stories. "Where are we?" Luma whispered. The Keeper's voice was deep and soft. "This is the garden of forgotten dreams. Every dream the world forgets ends up here. Every child who stopped imagining, every grown-up who stopped believing what they left behind lives here, waiting to be remembered." Luma wandered slowly, her feet bare on the warm, mossy path. She passed a bench made of moonbeams. A kitten made of cloud napped beside it. Wind chimes floated in the air with no strings. And above all, the sky shifted from dusk to night again and again, like breathing. She paused beside a silver tree and reached for one of the glowing butterflies. The moment her fingers touched it, the world shifted again. Suddenly, she was standing inside the dream. She was a little girl again, smaller, younger, and she saw her mother humming a lullaby by the window, brushing her hair as stars bloomed outside. It was a memory, long buried. She had forgotten this moment, and yet, here it was, glowing like firelight in the cold. Tears welled up in her eyes, not from sadness, but from a deep, aching kind of peace. Then the Keeper gently pulled her back. The garden returned. The memory butterfly fluttered once and then disappeared into the sky. "That dream has been restored," the Keeper said. "There are many more." Luma looked out across the endless garden. Dreams as far as the eye could see. Some were joyful. Some were lonely. Some were waiting to be found. "Will I see all of them?" she asked. "You'll see the ones meant for you," said the Keeper. "And in doing so, the world will sleep again." A soft breeze drifted through the garden. The stars blinked above. And so, Luma took a deep breath, her heart wrapped in a gentle calm, and walked deeper into the garden of forgotten dreams, where wonder waited with every step. The path through the garden of forgotten dreams led to a soft clearing where the ground turned glassy, and the stars reflected beneath Luma's feet as if she were walking on the night sky itself. At the edge of this clearing flowed a river, not of water, but of glowing liquid time. It moved slowly, like honey drifting through space. It whispered instead of rushing, murmuring lullabies in 100 forgotten languages. The Keeper of Moments knelt beside the bank and dipped his hourglass into the shimmering current. "This is the river of still time," he said. "It remembers every second the world chose to pause. The first snowflakes that made someone stop to watch. The hush between heartbeats during a goodbye. The stillness of a deep breath before a wish." Luma watched, enchanted. The river glowed brighter wherever she stepped close, as if recognizing her heartbeat. She could see shapes moving within the current, dreams wrapped in memories, floating along like little boats. She noticed one drifting toward a small stone bridge ahead. It was shaped like a lantern. She reached for it. The moment her fingers touched the glowing lantern, she was swept into its dream. Suddenly, she was standing in her old bedroom. The walls were painted in stars and clouds. A night lamp flickered softly. She saw herself as a child, curled beneath the covers. Her father was sitting beside her, reading from a tattered old book of bedtime tales. His voice filled the room like honeyed wind. Once, in a land beyond time, there was a girl who could dream so vividly, she changed the very sky above her. Luma's chest tightened. This was the last night he read to her before he went away, for work, for months. She had cried herself to sleep that night, missing him. But now, in the dream, she stayed a moment longer. The words didn't fade. They wrapped around her, warm as a blanket. When the dream faded and she stood again beside the river of still time, the keeper nodded solemnly. You are stitching the dreams back together, one memory at a time. Luma touched her chest. Something was changing inside her. She didn't quite understand it yet, but it felt like the kind of change that makes a heart grow deeper and a soul glow brighter. Where do we go next? She whispered. The keeper pointed toward the far side of the bridge, where tall reeds rustled in a windless hush, and a bell-shaped cloud hovered above the path. Next, he said, we walk into the storm that sleeps. And without fear, without rush, Luma followed. The bridge across the river of still time was made from woven branches and silvery mist. Each step Luma took made a soft chime, like footsteps echoing inside a dream. On the far side, the world shifted once again. The path grew quiet, not the kind of quiet that felt empty, but the kind that wrapped around you, gentle and full. The grass underfoot sparkled with dewdrops that never fell. Trees stood in slow motion, their branches frozen mid-sway. And above them loomed a strange, bell-shaped cloud that it hung low, like it was too heavy to float, pulsing faintly with blue light from within. The storm that sleeps, the keeper said softly once. This storm carried thunder and lightning across dreamscapes. But it's been still for centuries. Trapped. Tired. It cannot move forward until someone wakes the memory hidden inside it. Luma stared at the cloud. It didn't look scary. It looked lonely. They walked closer. With each step, the air grew heavier, not with fear, but with feelings. Forgotten emotions swirled like invisible mist. Somewhere within, something hummed. Luma reached out and placed her hand on the soft edge of the cloud. It responded. A deep rumble echoed, not loud, but ancient. A tunnel opened inside it, carved from stardust and static. Go, whispered the keeper. You'll be safe. The storm only remembers. She stepped inside. The world changed. She was now standing beneath a dark purple sky. Rain fell around her, not wet, but warm, like soft sparks. Thunder rolled slowly above. A tall tree stood in the distance, lit from within. Beneath it sat a boy, maybe her age, maybe younger, with stormlight in his eyes. I'm the memory of the storm, he said, not looking up. I was forgotten. Luma approached. Why? Because I scared them, he said quietly. I was loud. I made them cry in their sleep. But I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just felt too much. So they sealed me here. She sat beside him. I know how that feels, she said. Sometimes I feel things too deeply, and people don't understand. But that doesn't mean your feelings are wrong. The boy looked at her for the first time. His eyes were galaxies. Will you remember me? Luma smiled gently. Yes, I will. She reached out and held his hand. The sky above cracked open, not with noise, but light. Gentle flashes of silver danced across the clouds. The rain turned to soft petals. The tree shimmered, and the boy began to fade, his form turning into 1,000 tiny raindrops, falling upward into the night. When Luma stepped out of the cloud, the keeper of moments was waiting. You woke the storm, he said. I didn't wake it, Luma replied. I comforted it. The bell-shaped cloud drifted upward, lighter now, its color soft and calm. As they continued down the path, Luma felt something new in her chest. She was learning how dreams weren't just made of hope and wonder, but also sorrow, stillness, and healing. Ahead, a glowing doorway appeared, woven from stars and music. The next dream was waiting. The star-woven doorway shimmered like the surface of a still lake under moonlight. When Luma stepped through, she expected another garden or cloudscape. Instead, she found herself inside a vast, circular library, so enormous that the shelves disappeared into mist above her head. It wasn't quiet. It wasn't loud either. The air was filled with whispering voices, soft as paper rustling. Pages flipped themselves. Books floated mid-air. Light came not from lamps but from glowing letters that drifted freely like fireflies. The Keeper of Moments smiled. This is the library of whispering pages. Every dream ever dreamed is written here. Luma turned slowly, her eyes wide. Books big as boulders. Books small enough to fit in a thimble. Books with velvet covers. Books that breathed. Each one pulsed gently, as if alive. She reached for a nearby book. It hovered toward her willingly. The cover read, "The Dream of the Girl Who Danced with the Moon." She opened it. Instead of words, the pages shimmered and Luma was pulled into the dream. She was suddenly barefoot on soft, silver grass. A moon larger than any she'd ever seen hung low above her, glowing like a pearl. And there, on a floating platform of clouds, danced a little girl in a dress of stardust. The girl turned and beckoned to Luma. Without hesitation, Luma stepped onto the cloud and began to dance. She didn't know the steps, but the rhythm was inside her, like remembering a lullaby from long ago. The moon hummed softly above, and the stars twirled around them. It was a dance of freedom, of pure joy. When the dream faded, Luma was back in the library, the book closed gently in her hands. She looked at the keeper. Was that someone's real dream? He nodded. A little girl dreamed it long ago, but she grew up and forgot how to dance. By reading her dream, you helped keep it alive. Luma looked at the endless shelves. Can I read more? You can read one more today, the keeper said with a small smile. The next one is yours. A book floated down from high above. Its cover was soft blue, with gold edges that sparkled faintly. No title. Luma opened it, and she gasped. Inside were moments from her life, ones she remembered and ones she didn't. Her first laugh. The time she tried to fly by jumping from a couch. The dream she once had about riding a comet across the night sky. Her fears. Her wishes. Her quiet thoughts. Tears welled in her eyes, not of sadness, but of wonder. I didn't know my dreams mattered enough to be here, she whispered. They all do, the keeper replied. Even the quiet ones. Especially those. The library doors opened behind them, revealing a winding staircase of stars leading upward. Luma hugged the book to her chest, feeling braver, softer, and more awake inside her own heart. Together, she and the keeper climbed higher into the next realm, where dream and memory blended like ink in moonlight. Luma stepped carefully onto the staircase made of stars. Each step glowed under her feet, pulsing with a gentle light as though responding to the beat of her heart. Above, the sky was vast and velvet black, but not empty. Thousands of stars hung still in the air, frozen mid-fall. They weren't twinkling like normal stars. These were different, each one glimmered with a dream trapped inside. The Keeper of Moments climbed beside her, his robes trailing light. This is the staircase of falling stars. It connects forgotten wishes with dreams that never reached the ground. Luma paused, touching a nearby star. Inside it, she saw a child blowing out birthday candles, eyes squeezed shut, whispering a wish for her parents to stop fighting. The wish had never come true, and the star had never landed. Luma's throat tightened. They're beautiful and sad. The keeper nodded. Many wishes float forever. Some get caught in fear, others in silence. Some, like these, just need someone to carry them forward. They climbed higher. With every step, the air felt deeper, like swimming through velvet. The stars began to hum softly. a tune of old lullabies and wind through midnight windows. Then Luma saw it, a glowing rift in the sky, a place where the staircase broke, and the stars drifted wildly like fireflies in a storm. "The bridge of belief is broken," said the keeper quietly. "No one has walked through here in decades. Doubt and fear cracked it. To cross it, you must do something very few dare." Luma looked up, heart fluttering. "What must I do?" The keeper smiled gently. "Believe, without proof." She looked into the starry gap. It was wide, empty, impossible looking, but deep in her chest, a warm flicker stirred. The memory of dancing with the moon, the whisper of her father reading stories, the feeling of floating in dreams. "I believe," she whispered. "Even if I fall, I believe something will catch me." And then she stepped into the gap. The stars gasped. The staircase behind her vanished. For a moment, she floated weightless in the void. And then a bridge appeared beneath her feet, woven of light, faith, and the strength of her own dreams. The stars cheered silently. One by one, they began to fall again, but now with purpose, drifting down into the sleeping world like seeds of hope. When she reached the top of the staircase, the keeper met her with quiet awe. "You've restored a path that no longer existed," he said. "That is the power of one brave dreamer." Luma didn't feel brave. She felt calm, certain, lighter than ever before. Before them stood the next door, an arch of golden wind and soft, rippling music. "Where are we going now?" she asked. The keeper opened the door. "To the valley where time naps." And together, they stepped through. The silver fog parted as Luma and the keeper stepped through it, and immediately a soft, echoing melody reached her ears. It was faint at first, like a music box turning in the distance, but full of tenderness. The sound tugged at something inside her, something ancient and personal. Before them lay a small grove nestled in a hollow. Trees with wide, weeping branches circled the clearing like protectors, their leaves gently shimmering in hues of pale rose and moonlight blue. Beneath their canopy, dozens of glowing orbs floated midair, each one humming its own lullaby. "The grove of lost lullabies," whispered the keeper. "This is where songs go when they are forgotten, when babies grow up, when cradles are empty, when the singers fall silent." Luma moved carefully among the floating orbs. The air was thick with emotion, not sadness exactly, but memory. Each orb pulsed like a heartbeat, carrying melodies of love, longing, and gentle goodbyes. She reached out to one. The moment she touched it, the grove shimmered and the lullaby poured into her ears. It was a song she hadn't heard in years. Her mother's voice, slightly off-key but full of love, singing to her on rainy afternoons. "Close your eyes, little flame, let the stars whisper your name." Luma's chest tightened. She remembered that song. She used to fall asleep to it during thunder, curled up by the window. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and not a single one felt heavy. The keeper sat beneath one of the trees, his hourglass set beside him. "These songs don't ask to be remembered," he said softly. "They just wait. And sometimes, someone like you comes to hear them again, and they sing once more." Luma turned and saw a little music box beneath a nearby root. It was cracked, forgotten. She picked it up gently and wound the key. The box creaked and played the softest tune, the sound of a child's laughter woven into wind chimes. The trees responded. Their leaves swayed. The orbs brightened. One by one, they began to drift upward, slowly, into the branches, returning to their source, finding rest. Luma cradled the music box. "Can I take this one?" "It's already part of you," said the keeper with a warm smile. "Take it, and when you sing it again, you'll help others remember." Luma stood still for a moment in the grove's hush, letting the lullabies swirl around her like petals in slow wind. They brushed her cheeks and forehead like kisses. And then, as softly as a candle flickers, the music faded. The keeper rose and led her to a golden archway blooming from the earth. "This next dream," he said, "will be unlike the others. It is the oldest. The first dream that ever was." Luma blinked in wonder. What's it called? The Dream Before the World. And with that, the arch opened, and the light beyond shimmered like the first morning that ever was. As Luma stepped through the golden arch, the air changed. There was no sound, no light, no darkness either, just softness. It was like standing inside the space between two heartbeats. The keeper stood beside her, his voice no louder than a breath. This is the dream before the world. The very first dream ever dreamt, when there were no people, no clocks, no memories. Just possibility. Luma looked around. Shapes floated gently in the distance, half-formed ideas, glowing seeds of thoughts not yet imagined. A spiral of soft golden mist swirled beneath her feet, lifting her slightly as though the dream itself was cradling her. She whispered, "Is this where everything begins?" The keeper nodded. Yes. Before every story, every song, every heartbeat, there is this place. The place where dreams are born before they know what they want to become. Luma floated slowly forward. All around her were fragments of future things. A music note waiting for its melody. A snowflake without a storm. A pair of wings looking for their bird. And then, she saw a light pulsing in the distance. Gentle, golden, rhythmic. It drew her closer. It was a single, giant orb larger than anything she'd seen. It pulsed in and out like a sleeping breath. And as she neared it, she heard it. A voice. Not in words, but in feeling. Warmth. Curiosity. Loneliness. Hope. Luma reached out, and the moment her fingers touched it, the orb split open. And inside was her. Not exactly, but a version of herself, glowing, wordless, full of wonder and innocence. A version untouched by fear or time. The child she might have been before she ever learned about sadness. The dream being looked into Luma's eyes and then slowly folded into her chest, disappearing with a shimmer. She gasped, not in fear, but from the sudden rush of completeness. The keeper placed a hand over her shoulder. You just remembered something the world had forgotten, that every one of us comes from a dream, pure, good, full of light. The world may change us, but this place, this truth, lives inside us always. Luma looked at her hands. They glowed faintly now, soft gold at the fingertips. Will I always carry this? She asked. You already were, the keeper answered. You just didn't know. The dream before the world began to fade, not because it was ending, but because she had taken its truth with her. And that truth didn't need a place anymore. It had found a home in her. A doorway appeared before them, this one shaped like a sleeping eye, half-lidded, made of stars and lullaby threads. The keeper turned. Now it's time to meet the child who never woke. Luma swallowed gently. Who is that? You'll see, he whispered. And they stepped forward again into a dream waiting to be remembered. The doorway shaped like a sleeping eye opened slowly, and Luma stepped into a world of stillness. It was dusk, not just in the sky, but in the feeling of everything. The trees stood like shadows wrapped in silver. The grass glowed faintly, as if moonlight had soaked into the roots. In the distance, a small cottage stood, half draped in ivy, half sinking into the earth like a forgotten thought. Everything here felt like a memory trapped inside a sigh. Luma followed the path to the cottage. It didn't creak. It didn't groan. It simply accepted her presence, as if it had been waiting for her all along. Inside, a child lay curled in a bed of clouds. She looked no older than 7, her breathing soft and slow, her cheeks faintly flushed. A lantern of starlight hovered above her, casting gentle light across the room. A wooden rocking chair moved gently, though no one sat in it. The child who never woke, the keeper said quietly, standing behind Luma. She slipped into a dream long ago, and chose to stay. Her heart was too tender for the waking world. Luma stepped closer. The child's hands clutched a small toy, a stuffed bear with one but an eye. Its fur was worn, but its shape had the softness of love. Is she trapped? Luma asked. The keeper shook his head. Not trapped. Resting. Sometimes, dreams feel safer than reality, and she decided to wait until the world felt gentle enough to return to. Luma sat by the child's bed. The room was filled with unspoken emotions: hope, fear, comfort, sorrow, like the hush between verses of a lullaby. She reached for the bear and gently adjusted its arm. Then, from somewhere deep in her memory, she began to hum a soft tune, the same one her mother once sang to her during fevers and rainy nights. "Sleep now, little light, the stars will hold you tight." As she sang, the lantern above the bed pulsed brighter. The child stirred. Her fingers twitched. Her lips parted. Her chest rose and fell with a little more rhythm. The keeper watched in silence. "You've reminded her that the world still holds kindness," he said. "And she's thinking, maybe it's time." Luma finished the lullaby with a whisper, and the room settled into a warm stillness. The child didn't wake, not yet, but she smiled. And that smile glowed brighter than any word. Luma kissed the child gently on the forehead. "Sleep a little longer," she whispered. "But when you're ready, we'll be waiting." As she rose, the rocking chair slowed and stopped, as if something had been resolved. When she and the keeper stepped outside, the stars were beginning to blink above them. "Not every dream needs to end," he said. "Some only need to feel safe." Luma nodded, her heart fuller, quieter. A soft breeze carried the faintest echo of the lullaby back toward the cottage. Ahead, a path of floating leaves shimmered in the air, leading upward into the sky. "Where now?" Luma asked. "To the island of echoed goodbyes," said the keeper, "where dreams learn how to let go." And once again, they journeyed forward deeper into the dreamscape that had become her destiny. The floating leaves carried Luma gently through the sky like stepping stones in the clouds. They rustled softly beneath her feet, whispering fragments of songs, names, and sighs, voices not forgotten, but released. Above her, the sky deepened to indigo. Below, the stars curved like a quiet ocean, rippling with slow waves of light. And far ahead, rising out of the starlit mist, was a tiny island glowing like a lantern left in a window long after midnight. The Keeper of Moments walked beside her, silent and calm. Luma asked, "What is this place?" He spoke softly, as if the air itself might break. "This is the island of echoed goodbyes. It is where dreams come to let go. Of pain, of people, of old hopes that no longer fit. It is where the heart learns that endings can be beautiful." They stepped off the final leaf onto the island's soft soil. The ground was warm, padded with moss that shimmered silver underfoot. A circle of stone benches sat in the center, facing a smooth, reflective pool. Around them grew tall, slender trees, their branches stretching upward like quiet prayers. No wind stirred them, but their leaves shed slowly, one at a time, each leaf glowing gently, each fall releasing a sound. A whisper. A goodbye. Luma approached the pool. Its surface was impossibly still, like glass. But instead of showing her reflection, it showed her memories, each one tied to a farewell. She saw herself waving goodbye to her grandmother at the train station when she was 6. She saw the moment her best friend moved away and left a bracelet behind. She saw the time she gave up her favorite book so her younger cousin could sleep better. She saw the silent goodbye she made when her father stopped coming home as often. Tears welled up in her eyes. Not bitter ones, just full. Quiet. Real. "You don't have to forget," the keeper said. "You only need to release the weight." "How?" she asked, her voice trembling. He pointed to the water. "Give each goodbye a whisper. Speak it, feel it, and let the pool carry it onward." Luma knelt by the water. One by one, she whispered her goodbyes. "Goodbye, Nana. I still feel your hugs in my dreams. Goodbye, old friend. I kept the bracelet. Goodbye, Daddy. I understand now, even if I still miss you. Goodbye to the things I thought I couldn't let go." Each time she spoke, a silver leaf fell from the trees, drifted gently, and touched the pool, vanishing into it with a soft ring, like a bell fading in the distance. When she had no more words, the air grew warmer. A breeze, soft and fragrant, moved through the trees. The pool rippled once, then stilled. The keeper placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You've made room," he said. "Now there is space for what comes next." They stood. At the far edge of the island, a path of feathers curved upward like a staircase. Each step glowed faintly, pulsing with a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. "What's next?" she asked, more ready now. The keeper's eyes glowed with soft pride. "Now we visit the Sleepwalkers' Carnival, where dreams come alive before they fade." Luma took a deep breath, her chest lighter, her eyes clearer. And together, they stepped forward toward wonder once more. The path of feathers curved high into the sky like a staircase spun from softness. Each step Luma took gave off a quiet flutter, as though invisible wings were lifting her gently upward. As she reached the final step, the world shifted. Before her stretched a glowing fairground, floating in midair. It wasn't loud like ordinary carnivals. It shimmered, breathed, and pulsed with a rhythm so gentle it felt like a heartbeat wrapped in starlight. "Welcome to the Sleepwalkers' Carnival." The signs above the gates were made of music. The rides moved slowly, as if they were drifting in a dream. And everywhere she looked, figures moved in silence, people made of mist, children made of clouds, even a great bear with star eyes tiptoeing across the carousel. "They are sleepwalkers," said the keeper softly. "Souls who are dreaming, but not quite awake. This place is their sanctuary. It gives their minds gentle joy while their hearts heal." Luma stepped past a booth where bubbles floated upward, each one carrying a soft laugh inside. She passed a mirror maze that reflected not just her face, but her feelings, each pane showing her kindness, fear, bravery, and softness all at once. At the center of the carnival stood a giant Ferris wheel, not spinning, but breathing. It glowed with changing colors, each cabin a dream that had become a story. Above it, stars danced like fireflies caught in slow motion. Luma watched a sleepwalker child float up into one of the cabins, her hands glowing faintly with silver ink. "What's she doing?" Luma asked. "She's releasing a dream she no longer needs," the keeper replied. "Some dreams are heavy. Some outgrow us. But here, we can let them go with beauty." A ride caught Luma's eye. A gently turning swing, wide and curved like a crescent moon. No chains. Just air and light holding it in place. She sat down without fear. The swing began to move, not fast, but smooth, slow, like rocking in the arms of someone who loved her long ago. As it swayed, memories played in the stars overhead. Her first drawing. Her first fall. Her first night afraid of the dark, and her first time facing it. A birthday candle wish whispered into silence. A song she made up but never shared. The swing carried her in loops of memory and hope. It was not thrilling like a real carnival ride, it was healing. By the time it gently stopped, Luma's heart felt softer. Not emptier, but clearer. She climbed down, her steps light. The misty people around her smiled, not with mouths, but with their presence. They drifted gently like dreams that understood themselves at last. At the edge of the carnival, the keeper stood beside a gate shaped like an open book, its pages made of moonlight. "You've danced with memories," he said. "Now it's time to walk through stories." Luma looked one last time at the glowing Ferris wheel, the soft lights, the sleepwalkers smiling in their stillness. She whispered, "Goodbye," and the carnival pulsed once in reply. And then she stepped through the gate, into the next realm where forgotten tales waited to be read, remembered, and rewritten. Beyond the Moonlight bookgate lay a hush deeper than silence. Luma stepped into a forest, but not one made of wood and leaves. This forest was grown from parchment. The trees were tall scrolls, their trunks filled with curling lines of forgotten ink. Their leaves were pages that rustled with stories never told. And in the air, soft feathers drifted down instead of rain, each one inscribed with a single unwritten word. "This is the forest of unwritten tales," said the keeper, walking beside her. Every story that was never finished, every idea that faded before it bloomed, ended up here. Luma looked around in awe. The trees whispered as she passed. Some said names she didn't know, others said lines that ended in mid-thought. Once upon she reached for the sky, not knowing. The stars waited patiently for. Why are they here? Luma asked. Because someone never had the courage to tell them, said the keeper gently. Or perhaps they simply ran out of time. But these tales, they still wait. As they walked deeper, Luma noticed small creatures living among the words, tiny storybirds with ink-drop eyes, fluttering between sentences. Glowing foxes made of punctuation marks curled at the base of the trees. And above her, the sky was ink-black, but speckled with commas like constellations. In the heart of the forest, a wide stone table stood. On it lay a single quill, glowing faintly beside it, an open book, its pages blank. Luma looked up. The forest had gone utterly still. The forest has chosen you, the keeper whispered. It's asking you to give one of these forgotten tales an ending. She hesitated. But I'm not a writer. You are a dreamer, the keeper said. And every dreamer is a storyteller. She sat, and the quill floated into her hand. She didn't think. She felt. She thought of the girl who danced with the moon. She thought of the sleeping child and the river of still time. She thought of all the dreams that wanted to matter, just once, and she began to write. In a world where stories had no endings, a girl named Luma stepped quietly into the forgotten forest and gave every silence a voice. As she wrote those words, the pages began to glow. Above them, the parchment trees sighed in relief. Leaves fluttered, storybirds sang point one by one. The unfinished sentences on the trees began to complete themselves. Ink flowed upward through bark. Tales long abandoned found their endings. Characters who had once been shadows stood up, smiled, and began to walk. The forest shimmered. You gave voice to what the world left behind, the keeper said softly. And now the forest remembers. Luma stood. The blank book had vanished. In its place was a map drawn in gold lines and stardust. She unfolded it pointed toward a mountain made of memory, where dreams climbed to find their purpose. The next step, she asked. He nodded. The ascent of echoing peaks. A place where every footstep sings with the voice of your past. She folded the map and placed it over her heart, and with calm steps and a soul full of stories, Luma followed the path forward, leaving behind a forest now filled with endings, beginnings, and the echo of dreams that would never be forgotten again. The map drawn from stardust led Luma and the keeper along a winding path that shimmered faintly beneath their feet. Each step felt lighter than the one before, as if the very air was beginning to carry them upward. And then, the peaks came into view. They rose slowly from the dreamscape, vast mountains made not of stone, but of woven echoes, glimmering threads of light, sound, and memory. Every ridge, every slope pulsed with vibrations, like music frozen in form. The peaks didn't tower, they reached, as though stretching for a memory long forgotten. This is the ascent of echoing peaks, the keeper said quietly. Here, the ground sings back every memory your footsteps touch. Luma listened. As she stepped forward, a soft note rang out beneath her heel, gentle, familiar. She took another step. Another tone soon, with each movement, a soft melody followed her. She turned. It's playing my life. The keeper nodded. Your memories have been absorbed by the dream world. The joyful ones, the tender ones, even the quiet, lonely echoes. This mountain remembers them all. The path began to climb. The higher she stepped, the clearer the melody became. She heard laughter, her childhood giggles. She heard rain tapping on windows from nights she spent awake in thought. She heard her name whispered the way only her mother used to say it. And then, she heard silence. A long, aching pause. She froze. This is the part where I lost something. She whispered. Yes, said the keeper. But even silence is a kind of song. She took another step. The silence stretched. But then, a low, warm hum began to rise behind it. It wasn't a tune she recognized, but one that comforted her, as if the mountain itself was adding to her melody, lifting her through the harder notes. As she climbed higher, the wind carried her own heartbeat back to her, soft and slow, steady and true. The mountain wasn't just echoing her, it was holding her, supporting her, saying, "You've come far. You are not alone." Halfway up, she found a stone bench shaped like an ear. Listening, she Saturday the wind played back a full symphony, woven from every moment she'd lived. The embarrassing ones, the victories, the times she cried when no one saw. It was her life, but made musical, sacred. She whispered, "I didn't think anyone ever really heard me." The keeper sat beside her. "We all leave behind echoes. Most go unnoticed. But the dream world never forgets." She stood, stronger now. The path above began to glow in threads of gold, as if welcoming her ascent. At the summit, she would find the bell of remembrance, a dream artifact that could ring once for every truth that had been buried. "You're ready," the keeper said. Luma looked up. The peak shimmered in the moonlight. "I want to remember everything," she said, and onward she climbed, toward the bell, toward herself, and toward the quiet celebration waiting at the top of the mountain. The final steps to the summit of echoing peaks felt different, not heavier, but deeper. Every footstep now rang with crystal clarity. The music beneath her became more complex, like an orchestra rising toward a quiet but powerful crescendo. It was no longer just the sound of her memories, it was the sound of who she was becoming. At the top of the mountain stood a wide, silent platform of white stone, and at its center, tall and gentle, stood the bell of remembrance. It wasn't like any bell Luma had seen before. It didn't hang from ropes or metal. It floated. Its surface shimmered like mist, and its shape was ever-changing, a teardrop one moment, a flame the next. It was made not of metal, but of memory. The keeper stood a few paces back. "This bell rings not with sound," he said, "but with meaning. It will not echo across the sky. It will echo through you." Luma stepped forward slowly. In her heart, she could feel her thoughts swelling, like waves building before they break. The questions, the regrets, the wonder, the longing. A handle shaped like a silver ribbon floated beside the bell. With trembling fingers, she reached out. As soon as she touched it, the wind stilled. The sky held its breath and she pulled. The bell did not ring. It remembered. Instantly, a warmth burst through her chest, not pain, not joy, but recognition. She saw her entire life ripple outward in images of light, her first lost tooth, her first lie, her first forgiveness, the time she hid under a table and made up an entire imaginary world to keep herself company, the moment she realized grown-ups were scared too, the first time she stayed awake all night just wondering if she was enough. And deeper than all of that, she saw herself as she truly was. A girl who listened. A girl who cared too deeply. A girl who thought dreams mattered, even if no one else said they did. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. The bell faded, but its sound, silent as moonlight, kept ringing through her veins. The keeper stepped beside her, placing his hand over her heart. "You are seen now," he whispered. "By the dream. By the memory. By yourself." Luma closed her eyes. She felt full, but not overwhelmed. Balanced. There was no applause. No celebration. Just peace. And peace, she realized, was the most powerful recognition of all. As they began their descent, a new path appeared, spiraling downward through the sky like a ribbon woven from northern lights. "Where now?" Luma asked. The keeper's eyes sparkled with quiet mystery. "To the mirror market," he said. "Where souls barter reflection for truth." Luma didn't hesitate. She followed him once more, ready to look into mirrors that didn't lie, but still loved. Luma descended the ribbon of northern lights like a gentle current, each twist and turn bathing her in shifting hues of violet, sapphire, and pearl. The air grew warmer, not in temperature, but in feeling. It felt like being wrapped in understanding. Below her, a city began to shimmer into view. But it was no ordinary city. It was shaped like a spiral, streets flowing inwards like a galaxy of stone. Instead of buildings, it was lined with tall frames of every shape, circular, square, jagged, smooth, all holding mirrors that shimmered with an inner glow. At the heart of it all stood a grand pavilion, its dome made entirely of curved reflections. And walking among the mirrors were people, not solid, but soft, translucent, like echoes of real lives. They paused at mirrors, looked in, and sometimes smiled, sometimes wept. Sometimes simply nodded and walked on. This is the mirror market, said the keeper. Here, you trade comfort for clarity, illusion for truth. No one leaves without learning something about themselves. Luma stepped off the light ribbon onto a cobblestone path that pulsed faintly beneath her. She passed a mirror shaped like a teardrop. Inside it, she saw herself older, but not tired. Wiser, holding the hands of children she hadn't yet met. A future, or a wish. Then a jagged-edged mirror caught her eye. She stepped in front of it and flinched at it. She saw herself in her lowest moments, afraid to speak up, pretending to be okay, hiding her feelings behind two big smiles. Moments she had buried, smoothed over, painted pretty. Tears welled in her eyes. The keeper didn't speak, but his presence stood steady behind her. Luma did not turn away. I see her, she whispered, and I still love her. As soon as she spoke, the jagged edges of the mirror softened. The harsh light dimmed, and the version of herself inside smiled, just slightly, and then faded, leaving only her reflection once more. The next mirror was round, like the moon. In it, she saw the girl who believed she could fix everything, who carried guilt for things never her fault, who thought being kind meant being silent. She reached out and touched the mirror's surface. It rippled like water, and the girl stepped out. They stood facing each other. I tried so hard, the reflection said softly, to be everything. I know, Luma whispered. You were enough. You always were. The reflection dissolved into mist and folded back into her. Suddenly, the market shifted. A wind stirred. The mirrors hummed. One final mirror rose before her, taller than any other. A mirror without a frame. It didn't shimmer or glow. It simply was. She stepped in front of it and saw not herself, but everything she had become, not as a face, but as a presence, courage, gentleness, wild hope, quiet wisdom. Every person she had helped in this dream, every story she had listened to, every moment she had chosen truth. It didn't say anything. It didn't need to. She bowed, and the mirror bowed back. The keeper joined her once more. The market has no more to show you, he said. You have accepted both your shadow and your shine. And now, the next door is ready. A spiral of mirror shards floated upward, forming a gate of shifting light. Where are we going? She asked softly. To the place between heartbeats, he replied. Where time holds its breath, and you meet the one you almost forgot. Luma breathed deeply, and together, they stepped into the quietest magic of all. As Luma passed through the gate of shimmering mirror shards, the world slowed, not in a dizzying way, but in a sacred, weightless pause. It was like the moment after a question and just before an answer. Like the hush before someone says your name for the very first time. She was floating now, not through space, but through stillness itself. The stars above and below her no longer twinkled. They held perfectly still, as though watching quietly, respectfully. The keeper drifted beside her, his robes trailing trails of silver, his hourglass silent. This, he said, is the place between heartbeats. Luma felt her pulse slow, not in fear, but in surrender. It wasn't stopping. It was resting. The space around her shimmered softly, shaped not by light, but by memory. The ground became soft and golden beneath her feet, a surface like velvet woven from sighs. Above her, the sky was blank, waiting, listening. Why are we here? She asked. The keeper turned to her, and for the first time, he looked sad. Because here, he whispered, you will meet the one you've been almost forgetting. And remembering them will change everything. Luma didn't ask who. She knew. She had felt it, faintly, gently, through every step of her dream journey. And now, as the hush deepened, someone appeared in the distance, not walking, not floating, just being. A soft glow, a silhouette woven from warmth, laughter, and something bittersweet. As the figure neared, Luma's breath caught. It was a boy not much older than her, with wild, curious eyes. A smile full of mischief and moonlight. Her twin, not in blood, but in soul. A dream friend she had once created as a child, imaginary, yet realer than anyone. His name rushed back into her heart like rain. Kale, you, she whispered. He grinned, lopsided and radiant. Took you long enough. Tears pricked her eyes. I used to talk to you every day. You were there when I was alone. And then you grew up, he said gently. And I faded. That's what happens to dream companions. Luma stepped closer. But you mattered. So do all dreams, Kale replied. Even the ones we forget. Especially those. They stood face to face in the stillness. She reached out, and he met her hand with his. It felt like holding a memory that had forgiven you for letting go. I'm not angry, he said. You needed to grow. But I've been waiting here, between your heartbeats. Between the girl you were and the one you're becoming. Luma closed her eyes, their hands still joined. Will you come with me? She asked. Kale's eyes shone. I always was. And with that, he stepped forward into her. There was no flash. No sound, just warmth, the kind that lingers in blankets. In old songs. In letters never sent but always meant. The keeper placed a hand over her heart. Is part of you again. And so is your wonder. Your trust. Your joy. Luma stood taller, not older. Not younger, just whole. Ahead, the silence began to shift, turning to wind, to rhythm, to motion. A new door appeared, formed from flickering candlelight and 1,000 whispered questions. Where now? She asked. To the library of the never said, the keeper answered. Where voices rest, and truths long held find their pages. Luma stepped forward, her heart fuller than ever, and the heartbeat returned, soft, steady, and hers. As Luma stepped through the door made of candlelight and whispered questions, the air grew thick with softness. Not heavy, but reverent, like walking into a memory where silence meant everything. Bookshelves stretched infinitely in all directions. But they weren't ordinary shelves. They curved like the petals of a rose. They floated gently like clouds. And instead of paper books, they held glowing scrolls, jars of breath, folded letters with ink that pulsed like fireflies. This, said the keeper in hushed tones, is the library of the never said. Every feeling never spoken. Every thought swallowed. Every truth too delicate or too dangerous to be shared. It's all stored here, waiting. Luma's footsteps made no sound. And yet, the shelves responded to her presence. A few scrolls unfurled slightly. 1 or 2 jars began to hum softly, as if whispering, you're here. You remember us. She passed a glowing cube that projected a girl's face, eyes wide with longing. I love you, the cube whispered. But I never said it. Another orb glowed faintly. I'm not okay, but I didn't know how to ask for help. Another, I forgive you, but I still miss who we used to be. Luma stopped walking. The silence was louder than sound here, because every inch of it carried a weight someone never had the strength to give away. These are people's secrets, she said, looking around. Yes, replied the keeper. But not stolen. Shared willingly, once the dream world knew they were ready to release them. He gestured to a staircase made of golden typewriter keys. Your voice is in here too. Luma climbed slowly, each step lighting up with a phrase from her past. I wish someone saw me. Why do I always have to be strong? I want to go home, but I don't know where that is anymore. At the top of the stairs, a small room opened like a heart unfurling. In the center was a book, closed. Its cover was warm to the touch. Her name was written in the center in quiet cursive, Luma, Volume 1, What Was Never Spoken. She opened it. There were no pages, only light. And from it, her own voice rose. Not just from her mouth, but from her soul. I used to pretend I wasn't scared of being forgotten. Sometimes, I laughed so no one would see I was breaking. And sometimes, I was the one who walked away, even when I didn't want to. She listened. She cried. She didn't apologize. The keeper stood by silently. These words are sacred, he said. Not because they were spoken, but because they could have been. They are pieces of your truth. And now that you've heard them, they no longer have to be held alone. The book closed gently, pulsing once like a heartbeat. Luma breathed deeper. And then, a gentle flutter echoed above. She looked up to see a flock of paper cranes unfolding from a nearby ceiling. Each carried a single phrase. One landed in her hand. It's okay to rest. She smiled. The exit door appeared, this time shaped like an envelope sealed with starlight. The keeper nodded. "Next," he said, "you will visit the clockmaker's garden, a place where time grows on vines, and forgotten moments bloom again." Luma stepped through, voice steady now, silence no longer her burden.